Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Ksenia. Today I will be doing the Mid-Year Book Freakout Tag. This is the first time I've heard of it and I decided to do it because why not? So I'll leave the info about the booktubers who started down below. There's 13 questions and I will answer all of them right now. So the first one is best books you have read so far this year. It was so hard to choose, but I chose House of Mirth by Edith Wharton in the end because it was the book that after I read it, I was just like so absorbed in the story and the complexity of the characters and the themes that it brought up that I was like, I have to read everything else by this author in my lifetime. And very few books give me that immediate, like, I know I have to do this kind of impression. So yes, that's my best book of the year so far. And the themes that she touches on, like, yes, she lived in the Gilded Age, she was from a rich family, but the themes she touches on, like the constriction by society, the invisible forces of expectation, of money or not so invisible, of upbringing and how they're all like hard to break and how we're shaped by all of these forces is such a universal topic, timeless topic, and I think about it a lot. So I know I'll be reading all of her works eventually, and I've been doing book reviews of them because when I think about them, I just find so much juicy stuff in them that I have to come up with a book review. So stay tuned for that. Anyways, the second question, best sequel you've read so far this year. I don't read that many sequels where there's a lot of books in the series, but I did read 2 of Karl Ove Knausgaard's books this year. I started with Autumn and then I read Spring because I wanted a little bit less winter, even though there's 4 seasons, and I absolutely loved Spring, and soon I'll be starting the summer season and I look forward to that. So yeah, for the few sequels that I do read, that's my favorite so far. So the third question, new release you haven't read this year but want to. This will probably be Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I read her previous book, Beach something, sorry. I'll have to link it down below. And I really liked it. It was very sweet. The characters were very nice. And this one's called Book Lovers. And I'm a book lover, so obviously I feel like it'll have to be my light read of the month for some future month. So the fourth question is most anticipated release from the second half of 22. It'll have to be Life Ceremony by Sayaka Murata. I have read her previous 2 works, Convenience Store Woman and Earthlings, and I really love them. So I love the theme she goes back to, which is norms in society and how arbitrary they are, and in a way actually very modern version of Edith Wharton that's a lot more playful and witty and just contemporary, but the themes I feel like are somewhat similar in some ways. Okay, number 5, biggest disappointment this year. I read my first Colleen Hoover book, Verity. It was all over the Facebook groups that I follow, all over BookTube, and I thought I would give it a try. Like, maybe I'll find a nice, light author that I enjoy. It was so amateurish, and I didn't like any of the characters or the plot, and I wasn't really scared, even though I think that was the point. So yeah, I gave it like 1 star, and I will never read another book of hers again, because this is like the most popular one, so I assume it's the best. So the biggest surprise this year, question 6. Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. Like I mentioned, I was really surprised in a very good way by the way she handles the themes of normality and abnormality in our society in contemporary times. she's a Japanese author, and I guess Japan has very, very rigid, traditional normative structures. Though I feel like most countries are still kind of rigid in a way when it comes to what was normal, what isn't normal. For women to be alone and single and just an artist is not really normal. I know that from personal experience. It's not something you talk about. It's like, what is your full-time job? Are you getting married, etc.? And so I guess maybe it's personal to me, but I know that I will be following her work for, forever probably, unless she somehow deteriorates in quality. But so yeah, these are short stories, Life Ceremony, and when they come out, I will try to get a hot copy from the library. They are very expensive when they come out new, so I do use the libraries for that. 7, favorite new author. Even though I just mentioned that I love Sayaka Murata, I read so many new authors this year that she won't quite make it the list. The 3 authors that I really discovered this year and totally fell in love with are Edith Wharton, like I already mentioned. I read House of Mirth, Ethan Frome, and just finished Summer. They were all amazing. I couldn't stop reading each one. So then Carl Uwe Nosgard. I read 3 of his books already, and I'm starting some other essays. And his My Struggle series, it's hard to get through. It's a big time commitment, but you just feel so immersed in this person's life, his sensitivity. He kind of describes the minute detail of the everyday in a way that is very transcendent at times. He's such a sensitive person. He's so attentive to nature, to his own emotions, to the contradictions that we carry with us, to his children, to his wife, to art. He loves so many artists, and reading his perspective as an artist is just so enriching to me in a way that I can't really describe. But he has a really deep appreciation for all the arts, and I just look forward to reading all of his My Struggle series. They are books that are like 400, 500 to the last one I think is like 1,000. But so far reading the first one, it was not a struggle. Haha, my struggle. A struggle. Anyways, it was not a struggle, and I will definitely continue reading his works. I also want to read his fiction works, but I am very drawn to personal narrative, as you'll probably figure out from this channel. I read a lot of personal narrative, and I like reading the personal narrative even before the fiction in a way, which is interesting because it gives me like the inner like look onto the artist who wrote the fiction. So yeah, I'll be reading the My Struggle series before I read his fiction works, most likely. Finish it before I even start his fiction. Okay, so newest fictional crush, question 8. It'll have to be Antonia from Willa Cather with My Antonia. Fictional crush. What does that mean? I really loved her as a character. I thought she portrayed that kind of natural, wild, very, very sensitive, very in tune with her like body and nature and nurturing kind of person, which is what I love seeing in women. And so I guess she's my crush. I am not a lesbian, but I will have to choose her for now as my crush. Like, I just love everything she embodies. Though maybe not the fact that she didn't go to school and chose not to go to school even when she could. But anyways, that's a different conversation. I'm a very bookish person, but I love people who live fully in their senses and are nurturing and considerate and compassionate. So, yes, she's my favorite character from this year that I've read so far. So, my newest favorite character. Actually, crush and character. What's the difference? Antonia from My Antonia as the crush, and I put Lily Bart as a fictional character because I didn't quite like her as overall as a person, but Edith Wharton is such a good author that I couldn't help but sympathize with so much of her plight. And I thought she was a really, really well developed character who will just be forever imprinted in my mind somewhere. So 10 books that made you cry this year. There were actually 4. This is probably the most I've cried over books ever. The first one was Beartown. I just read it recently, and there were some really touching scenes that made me sob. And then there's Letters from Max, which is a book of correspondence between Max Ritvo, a poet, and Sarah Rule, who is a poet and a playwright. And Max is actually dying from cancer while they're exchanging these emails and letters and poems. And there's just so much beauty, so much life, so much kind of existential, but also just beautiful, articulate, and playful, very, very playful. Max has a very funny sense of humor. And it's just a beautiful record of the last years of a life of a really talented poet who gave life his all and was taken from us way too soon. Also, 2 Edith Wharton books, House of Mirth and Summer. I just really felt for the characters, their isolation, their loneliness, and at the very end of Summer, where Charity still has her pride, but also realizes she is kind of backed into a corner by circumstances, and how she allows herself to like open her heart to the guy was kind of very touching to me, but at the same time very, very sad, because those are such poor circumstances and she's a very tough spot. So yeah, that's it for books that made me cry. The most I've ever cried, honestly. So a book that made you happy this year. I couldn't really choose between Chasing Rumi by Roger Houston and So Many Books, So Little Time by Sarah Nelson. The Chasing Rumi book was so hopeful, so sweet and wise at the same time. So it was like, I devoured it within like 2 days, and I'll probably reread it when I'm in a low mood. It hits the right like spot of nurturing the soul in a very gentle kind of manner. So yeah, Chasing Rumi by Roger Houston, and also this book, So Many Books, So Little Time. This kind of really made me realize that a year of passionate reading can be life transformative, and hearing about someone else's experience of trying to read a book a week and developing reading habits made me kind of nourish my own reading habits, and I'll be doing a video about this book and my own reading habits next. So stay tuned for that if you're curious. This book is really a must for any book lover, honestly. She has such a witty approach and such infectious enthusiasm, and so witty, so various. Like, she reads Solzhenitsyn and then she reads Captain Underpants, and she thinks they're all valid reading. She's not snobbish. She doesn't think you have to immediately read all the, really difficult 1,000-page classics and stuff like that. She's very down to earth and very insightful about how there's different types of readers and how books come to us at the right time, and we must kind of intuitively listen to when the books are coming to us and what's working for us and what isn't. So yes, that one. And number 12, most beautiful book you've bought or received so far this year. I think it'll have to be Karl Ove Knausgaard's essays both the ones for the different seasons and a collection, I think it's called, I forgot what it's called, a collection of essays. It's printed on such thick like photo paper and has such a beautiful like matte cover and reproductions of photographs and these very strange paintings, but he's a very strange writer, so I think the combination is just really beautiful and really works for me. Okay, so question 13. What do you need to read by the end of the year? I don't need to read anything. I can just stop reading. No, I really can't. Okay, so I'm planning to read more prize winners. I've been following so many booktubers who've been reading all the women's fiction shortlists and the Booker International Prize and the Wainwright Prize, and I'm really committing to reading at least one prize winner a month for the next year. I'll do a separate video on that, let you know which ones I choose, but first up is the Booker International Prize winner, which is Tomb of Sand by Gitanjali Shri. Sorry, I'm not good at names. And so far, it's amazing. It's very different from what I normally read. So I'm looking forward to seeing what judges chose as the prize winners and see if I like them. This is, I think, a great way to find new authors and to stay kind of in the loop of what's being read and what's being valued. Even if I disagree, I always reserve the right to disagree, but I think being exposed to different perspectives, different cultures especially, is very important to just having a broader worldview. And yeah, also the next prize winner after that is Diary of a Young Naturalist. This is the Wainwright Prize in the UK. So yes, that is it. Stay tuned for the rest of the prize winners and all the other books I read. Feel free to make your own book freakout tag. Until next time, bye.